Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's Manulife Business Success Series webinar on local immigrant connector and mentorship programs, offering a source of immigrant talent and more. My name is Ian McLean, and I'm the President CEO of the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce. Before we get started, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that we do live and work on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples, as we seek a renewed relationship based on a foundation of mutual understanding and respect. As participants in today's virtual event, we are coming together as one. We believe everyone is free to be their true self and receive the same respect and opportunity, regardless of age, ethnicity, gender, culture, identity, sexual orientation, beliefs, or language. We hope you will join us in fostering a positive environment here today that is a safe and welcoming space for all. We know there is more that we can do as a chamber, and we're committed to listening, learning, and growing as we go. As with all chamber events, today's session would not be possible without the continued support of our partners and sponsors. So a special thank you today to our title sponsor of the Business Success Series, Manulife. Our platinum sponsor for the series is the Immigration Partnership of Waterloo Region, and to this month's presenting sponsor, Grant Thornton. These organizations are committed to supporting our local economy and providing businesses with the resources and tools they need to thrive. Just before the session starts, I'd like to go over a couple of quick reminders. Please ensure that your microphone is muted throughout the presentation so we can reduce any background noise. If you have any questions that come up throughout the session, you can type them into the question box in your control panel at any time. If it's a tech-related issue, a representative of our team will get back to you right away. And if the questions are for today's presenter, they'll be gathered. I'll try and gather those throughout the session and get our speakers to address them as best they can, either during the session or following the session. All attendees today will be sent a recording of today's presentation that'll show up in your email box, but it will also be made available and accessible on the Greater KW Chamber website. At this time, I'd like to invite Kevin Ballantyne, a good friend of the Chamber, and he's the Senior Manager with Grant Thornton LLP, to introduce today's speakers. Kevin.
Thank you, Ian. Grant Thornton LLP is proud to be this month's presenting sponsor of the Business Success Series. I have the privilege of introducing today's speakers, Marcia Schluter and Dave Thomas. Marcia Schluter is the Community Liaison Specialist at the YMCA of Three Rivers. The YMCA of Three Rivers includes Cambridge, Guelph, Kitchener, Waterloo, and Stratford. As part of her role, she facilitates the mentorship program. Prior to this, she worked at Peel Region, Ontario Works Department for 11 years in various roles. Throughout the years, helping people has been her heart's desire. She wants to see individuals and families healthy, happy, and thriving. In her current role, facilitating the mentorship program, her goal is to support internationally trained professionals secure employment in their own professional field and to grow their network. Her hope is that newcomers will settle well, feel a part of our community, and call KW Region and surrounding areas home. Dave Thomas, who I've known from my time with Toastmasters, helps newcomers build their professional networks through a program called WR Connectors and works on employer engagement at the Kitchener-Waterloo Multicultural Center. And I've also been a mentor through the Connectors group as well, or a connector, I should say. Dave grew up in Southern Ontario and studied at the University of Western Ontario, where he achieved a BA in political science and an MA in journalism. Before starting at the Multicultural Center in 2017, he was a job developer at the Working Center, helping to connect job seekers and employers. He has also been active in many community efforts. Please join me in welcoming Marcia and Dave. Thank you to all of you for joining us today. I will now pass it back to Ian.
Well, thank you, Kevin. And I guess to get started, we always try and do these as a fireside chat, so it's more conversational. And these are two tremendous programs, not only for newcomers to the community, but for business and small business as a resource for the talent that they require for their own businesses. And I often will say during these sessions, as we know here in the region of Waterloo, all that new employment and the new jobs are going to be filled primarily by newcomers to our community and to our country. And so not only is this the right thing to do to have all our new people, newcomers to our community to be welcomed and have a sense of belonging, but to find meaningful work is not only the right thing to do, there's a business imperative for it. So it's really a pleasure to have both Marcia and Dave with us today. Maybe to start, because there'll be many, I would suspect, that are listening in or watching this, because many will watch this after on our website or when they see the link after this event. But for those watching and those who will watch, they may not know what these programs are. So maybe the way to start today's discussion, and I'll start with Marcia first. Start with an overview of the program, what it is, and why it should have some appeal for a business owner that's listening today. So, Marcia, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you so much, Ian. So the mentorship program empowers internationally trained professionals who are new to Canada, and they match them with an experienced local professional based on shared education and similar work experience to provide them with guidance and expand networks. So that's what the mentorship program is.
Okay, and Dave, maybe the same question to you, because these programs are, no pun intended, connected, but they're different. So maybe talk about the mentorship side of this, which is so important, the connector side of this, as we get through looking at how both immigrants but also businesses should view these programs.
Well, thanks, Ian. Well, WR Connectors focuses specifically on network building, and so it has a specific focus. And we match newcomers, internationally trained professionals, with a volunteer from the community, someone from a similar business or profession or industry who is willing to share some of their knowledge of their industry, to offer advice, answer questions, and also to introduce the newcomer to other people in the Connectors network, because we know how important networking is for career success, and we know how challenging it can be for newcomers. So this helps to really get the ball rolling.
Well, I think that's important, and I mean, it was as both of you know, the Greater KW Chamber started what was the precursor to the Immigration Partnership, Waterloo Region Immigrant and Employment Network, of which, Dave, I certainly met you as through that program, and over the last probably 10 years now with the Immigration Partnership. But it came home for me is that one of our longer serving employees at the Chamber came as a result of a connection through this program and the networking that was done. And so Saba is on our team, newcomer to the country. I got to know her because my former colleague on Waterloo City Council, Mayor Halloran, said you should meet this young woman. I did, and I always tell the story. We didn't have a job when I met her. I was just kind of saying I'd like to meet her. But that connection, when we were starting to had some new programs coming, I always had in the back of my mind said, I want to hire her when I have a job. And so we actually created a job with her skill set in place, and she's been with us, I don't know, I'll forget this, but 5-6 years, maybe longer. It's been a long while, and it came out of this relationship that started through the Connector program. So let's maybe Marcia, what was the need for you, or in your experience for the mentorship program, like in the community? What was identified as why was the need, or how did he identify the need? Maybe is the way to describe it. What led to the development of this program?
Yes, so the mentorship program, it was in a direct response It's been in our community for about 14 years. And it was because there was a need to serve and support our professionally trained newcomers. And in all the areas that I was mentioned before. So currently it runs in Cambridge, Kitchener, Waterloo, and my hope with the will extend to Stratford and Guelph due to the unification of the YMCA of Three Rivers. Just a little bit of a history going back, the government had identified that Canada has a skills shortage. So they invited skilled workers to come to Canada with the goal of filling those labor gaps. But what they found, for whatever reason, in many of these cases, newcomers found themselves underemployed, not in their profession, and basically just trying to survive. So with the mentorship program, the mentors, connect with the mentees and teach and kind of share their knowledge. And so the mentees were able to learn about the Canadian work culture, the steps to pursue their career. They were helped with networking with other professionals and potential employers in their field. And it created a bridge in their settlement journey. And again, reaching out to our audience and all the employers, that if there is ever a job opportunity that they would like to share with myself or Dave, to please feel free to connect with us because many of our mentees may fulfill the qualifications that they're looking for.
So same question to you, Dave. The connector program, I know the answer to this, but others may not. What was the need identified in terms of that connector program of taking and making those connections? And a lot of this is between businesses that have a need but don't know what they don't know, so they wouldn't necessarily know that there's this program that there's lots of wonderful talent in the immigrant and the newcomers community. They just don't know it. So is it, was that the impetus for this?
Yes. In fact, the connector program as a model actually exists across the country and internationally. It's based on a model that started in Halifax in 2009, and it was based on those observations that it was challenging for newcomers to find work in their field because they lacked connections and didn't have the networks that those of us who were born and raised here tend to have, and also it was a challenge for businesses to fill some positions. And so this model was implemented there by a group called the Halifax Partnership, which then began to market this model as a best practice for communities across the country. And so it has sprung up in different communities across Canada and also in several places in the United States, as well as Switzerland and Sweden, of all places. And so locally here, there was the pilot version of the program in which Saba was a connectee. And then we applied for and received ongoing funding for the program, which has been running on a full-time basis since 2017. And because that need continues, that it's still challenging for internationally trained professionals to find work in their field, and often employers are having difficulty filling certain highly skilled positions. So we see it as a win-win. Although I just want to clarify one point, that for anyone who participates in the program as a connector, i.e. a volunteer to meet with newcomers, you don't have to have a job to offer the newcomer. It's great if you do, but it may serve your future needs, just in that sense, but you're getting to know someone, and like your experience with Saba, you may remember that connection and stay in touch with the person, and then maybe it's a few months, weeks or months later that when a position might open up, then that's someone who you might consider for that position.
Yeah, and here in Waterloo Region, because we're tech-centric, we really value intellectual property, but we also do our best to steal good programs. So when we saw something working in Halifax, and now, as you say, it's working everywhere else, we wanted to take that and replicate it here. Much in the same way we've done our rapid screening pilot and program for COVID testing, piloted here, but we intended that to go right across the country, which it in fact has now, because anything that's good for our community will be good for other communities as well. So let's do a little bit into the details. Marcia, what is entailed, or what's the obligation, or what's the guts of the mentorship program? What's involved in it for a business or an individual wanting to get involved in it?
Thank you, Ian. So what the mentorship program involves is mentor and mentee are matched based on their professional background, which will last for 4 to 6 months in the mentorship program. Now, the mentee would be a newcomer who has been in Canada for less than 3 years and have not yet worked in their field of expertise. So the mentee does receive support and guidance, and this can include learning about possible courses that they can take to upgrade their skills, learn about networking and job searching. And it's not just beneficial for the mentee, it's also beneficial for the mentor, because the mentor is able to add or develop to their leadership skills. They're able to share their knowledge, expand their own networks, as well as developing an awareness of other cultures. And I found, like, even during this time of the pandemic, many of the mentees have shared with me not only that they receive support to become job ready, but they also felt supported and heard and encouraged and not isolated. And to say that during this time is a real testament to our mentors about how they've been able to reach out to the mentees and have made the experience such a valuable program, even during this unstable and job market. So that's
just a quick follow-up, because I think on both sides, whether you're a connector or a mentor, time commitment. I mean, we're all busy, but what would the time commitment look like? And you talked about that 4 to 6 month window. What's the time commitment look like? Because I think we want to promote this again for people watching after. What does that look like?
Yes, thank you. So what it would be is usually at the beginning, the mentee does need a little bit more help. So maybe about an hour, let's say a week. But then that does lessen as they're given resources and so forth, or given things to do. So approximately, let's say about an hour or so a week. Now, it does depend on the mentor and the mentee, of course. And then the only change to, let's say, the 4 or the 6 month mark is if the mentee does secure full-time employment in their field, then the file does close. However, it's really based on the mentor and the mentee. So approximately, let's say about an hour, I guess, in summary.
Oh, that's good. So Dave, same thing to you. I mean, in terms of the connector program, what's the guts of it? What's involved in it? What's the commitment in terms of time on I guess on both sides?
Well, for people coming into the program as connectees, the newcomers, they need to have completed an appropriate pre-employment program. The Multicultural Center has one. A number of Employment Ontario providers like YMCA have a lot of programs as well, because people need to have that sort of foundational understanding of the Canadian job market, about how resumes are framed here, about interview practice, about understanding Canadian labor market information and job search phenomena. And so that's kind of serves as the basis, and then we coach the clients with particularly around networking skills and developing a networking action plan, so that they can be undertaking efforts themselves to network. On the connector side, for the volunteers, what we ask of the connector, because it's this specific narrow focus of network building, we ask the connector to have an initial information interview with the connectee, the newcomer. So an opportunity for the newcomer to ask questions and advice about that industry, about that company, about those kinds of jobs within that field. And so it's an opportunity for the connector to share some of their industry knowledge and expertise. They might share insights and offer advice. And then we ask the connector to introduce the connectee to some people in their network, at least one person ideally up to 3 people in their network. So contacts that they have in their network who would also be willing to meet with the newcomer. And because we want to get that ball rolling so that the connectee can then meet with them for similar kinds of ongoing interactions, and hopefully get referrals from them to get other people that they might need. And then for the original connector, we ask them to have a follow-up meeting with the connectee to kind of bring that full circle, to review the progress that the connectee has made. And that's the scope of the formal commitment of a connector. But of course, we hope that the connector would be an ongoing resource person for the connectee, and that they will stay in touch and stay connected, because we know that the value of networks is really about developing relationships, not just a bunch of one-time contacts.
Well,
so it's a fairly quite manageable commitment of time that we're asking of our volunteers.
and it's kind of, it builds on what chambers do all the time. I mean, we realize that, and we try and encourage all of our members and anyone that's participating in our things, that you got to participate in networking. Networking is the way you're going to develop relationships, and those relationships are the ones that lead to business. It's not usually a straight line between Ian met Marcia. Marcia said, "Would you do some business?" And it's that click. You get to know, and Marcia may say, "Hey, Bob or Betty that I work with has something," and it happens over time. So networking is absolutely essential, and especially for newcomers to connect, and for the connectors and the mentors. Great opportunity to give back to the community. Listen, let's maybe both of you, and I'll start with Marcia and then Dave. It's not the wild west. These are formal programs. What's the eligibility criteria? How do you get people involved? The referral process. Walk us through kind of the how-to. If you were given here's the 4 things you need to do to get involved in the program, especially as a business owner, which is I think most of our audience today. Walk people through, in your case, Marcia, the mentorship program, and then Dave, the connector program. What's that 3, 4, or 5 things you need to do to kind of get involved in the program?
Yes. So for the mentee eligibility criteria, a mentee would be an internationally trained professional with valid confirmation of credentials. They're a permanent resident or conventional refugee, conventional refugee status. They possess English proficiency of level 7 or above. And now looking at that, I do really focus on the listening and speaking, as they'll be utilizing those skills when they're conversing with their mentor. And the 4th thing is receiving, as Dave had mentioned before, employment preparation support from an employment service provider in Canada. So again, yes, they have the Canadian style resume, cover letter, and they're able to identify jobs that they can do in the Canadian job market. Now, the referral process is very easy. They can go to our YMCA of Three Rivers website under the mentorship tab and fill out a mentee application, or they can contact myself directly, mentorship@ytr.ymca.ca. And if there's someone in the community who knows of a newcomer that would benefit from the program, they can easily do the same thing by directing them to our website or email. And then the next steps are that I would invite the mentee to a mentorship orientation, and we'll discuss the responsibilities of both the mentor and the mentee, and then complete a needs assessment. And that really, it helps me to determine the needs and the challenges that the mentee is facing. And then I'll also share with them about YMCA programs, give information, and make referrals. And then after the orientation is completed, then I facilitate that match between the mentee and the mentor. And throughout the match, I do check in to receive updates and the effectiveness of the match, and also learn how they are progressing. So that's basically the guts of it, I would say.
And I'm going to, just before you come in, Dave, I can feverishly hearing people saying, "How do I rewind this? Because I don't know what the website was." She did. Don't fret.
Sure.
If you're watching. What we will do when we send out the video, and I know Jenna and Saba are watching probably, we'll include the information for both programs and how to contact websites and contact information, as well as information from the Immigration Partnership, because there's another sort of a resource of people that can be helpful for for businesses that are registering. So I just wanted to do that public service announcement. We will make sure that we do that, so people, if they think they got to take notes, they may tune out of our session. So we'll provide that information after the fact. Over to you, Dave.
Thanks, Ian. Yes, it's a similar kind of process that for in terms of eligibility, the requirements are similar. The person must be a permanent resident or convention refugee. That's because the funding for both these programs is through the federal government via Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, and their mandate for programs such as these is targeted specifically to those immigration statuses. They have to have level 7 English according to the Canadian language benchmarks. That system looks at speaking, listening, reading, and writing. And level 7 is fairly high because individuals will need to have fairly sophisticated conversations as they're doing networking. So that is important. And they have to complete an employment preparation program that provide that sufficient foundational training. So if a newcomer is interested in joining WR Connectors, they can go through our website, wrconnectors.com, which is a site specifically for this program, but it is run by the Kitchener-Waterloo Multicultural Center. There's also a link from that site to the Connector site, on which there's an application form. And when they fill that form, they come in for an intake and needs assessment, similar to mentorship program, to kind of review their situation and where people are at, refer them to appropriate programs, and then we would begin working on the specific, developing a networking action plan, looking at networking skills, and looking to match them with a connector.
Okay, now I think we've touched on this, but I wanted to kind of go back a little bit. And if I'm a business owner that's watching this now, or when the recording comes out or on our website, and we just said, what is the role of the mentor or the connector? So maybe we'll start with Marcia again. What's the role specifically of the mentor? We know what the program generally is, but if Ian decides he wants to be part of this, or Marcia decides she wants to be part of this, walk through the specific part of what my requirement is, because we talked a little bit about time, but maybe give a little bit more granular on what the individual mentor or connector responsibility is. Marcia.
Sure, thank you. So the mentor, what their role is that they would share information with the mentee. So that's current labor market demands, trends in their field, self-marketing methods. It could be Canadian workplace integration. So in summary, they're a resource of information for the mentee. And the style of mentoring can be different. Some mentors may like to go for hikes with the mentee while giving them professional advice, or another may invite them to a user group or meetups. Some may host information sessions for a mentee. And the style of mentoring is unique and is up to the mentor and the mentee to decide. Now, we have had created groups on Facebook and LinkedIn so that both the mentor and the mentee can join in and stay connected and learn about the job fairs and events in our community. And just what Dave had mentioned before, and I had mentioned earlier, just about jobs and so forth. Like Dave said, yes, the role is not to give them a job, the mentee a job, but it's to give them information. And then just going into further detail about eligibility criteria for a mentor, the mentor would complete a mentor application form online, like the mentee, by contacting me directly or going on the website. And because the YMC does treat all of our volunteers like employees, they are required to do a police record check and to meet with me for an interview. Now, once the mentor has completed the 3 months of volunteering and has passed the probationary period, then they're able to receive a free YGym membership as a token of our gratitude for their volunteer service. So that's kind of getting more into the detail about the mentor's role.
Some of us could use a gym membership these days after 15 months.
The pandemic, the COVID-19, right? For all of us.
Dave.
Well, I'm sorry to say that we are not able to offer gym memberships, but Similarly, if someone wishes to get involved as a connector, there is an application form on our website that they can fill out, or they can get in touch with me. And what we look for is particularly that people have knowledge about their industry that they're willing to share, and so it's a willingness to be open to answering questions, offering advice, sharing insights, and also they have to have a good network of their own, because it's an important piece of this process that they're willing to reach out to other people who they know in their industry. It could be colleagues from the same company. It might be from others who they know through an industry association or what have you. And so people who are willing to, in essence, recruit other people to be actors in this process. But if people are networking, that's the kind of thing they're doing anyway. As you said earlier, Ian, the chambers and building a business requires networking. We try to impress upon our clients, the connectees, that networking is important, not just to get your first job in Canada, but to get every subsequent job that you'll have throughout your working career, and for success in jobs as well, because that's so important. So for business people who wish to volunteer, please get in touch, and we will start with that application process, and we have an interview with me and an orientation, and we'll go from there.
So, and you've touched on this, my next question. So, because some of these are reasonably closely related, but if I want to get involved. If you looked at this at a little higher level, you'd say connector, mentor, same thing. What is the difference in your own mind, from each of your perspective, of what you're looking for a mentor, which sounds like it's more of the personal relationship and giving that one-on-one with that individual, versus the connector, which is to develop the network. So it's broadening out. I mean, that's what it sounds like, but I want to make sure that we've got that right, because as a business owner, I say I'm more comfortable doing the connecting because that's kind of what I do, because I'm a business development person. Or if it's a mentor, saying, no, I really like the one-on-one, because that's where some of my other lived experience or my volunteer stuff or the other parts of who I am that influence my career and my career choices and how I've developed things. So I want to kind of drill down on that a little bit. Maybe and I guess the way that it's not necessarily the difference is, what specifically would you be encouraging that business owner to be saying, you're a great mentor if you do, if this is what you're interested in? And the same thing for you, Dave. To be a great connector, here are the things that we want you to be comfortable in. Marcia?
Okay. So I would say you're right on, 100%, Ian, that the main difference between the connector and the mentorship program is the duration of the program. As the mentorship program is the mentorship match, that is 4 to 6 months, and it is a one-on-one. The benefits of that would be, or just to look at it further, is due to that long association that the mentor can also serve as a reference for the newcomer mentee when they're applying for jobs, because they know them a little bit more. There's two facets to the program. One is that the mentor does help with giving guidance with employment needs, but secondly, also addressing social needs. So in some cases, mentorship matches have extended beyond the 6 months and have evolved into lifelong friendships. The other thing it would be is that there's no limit to the number of meetings or communication or conversations between the mentor and the mentee. So during the course of the 6 months, and this is also depending upon the needs of the mentee and the availability of the mentor, they're able to meet up. For an example, I had one mentee tell me that he had a job, he had applied for a job, and then he had a quick turnaround, and he'd already met with his mentor that week. And so he contacted the mentor, say, I have a job interview, I need help. And the mentor had made herself available, and they did a mock interview, which was beneficial for his interview. Another thing that we've just started recently, and it's just been a month, that we have purchased a membership with the KW Chamber Toastmasters. so that the mentees have that exposure to leadership, public speaking. So it's on a monthly rotational basis. So the mentee can learn new skills and meet other people in the group. And we're hoping that that will be beneficial. Maybe they might want to continue with KW Chamber Toastmasters. So that's something that might be a little bit different from the Connector program.
Dave?
Well, the focus, because the focus is specifically on networking, we see that as, you know, as a more kind of specialized kind of focus. And so, so I would see that because that is the you know, unique nature of this program, that for people who are looking to get involved, I would ask you to ask yourself, how do I interact with my peers in my industry and in the community? You know, do I, you know, am I kind of a natural networker? Do I like to talk to people and introduce them to one another to help to connect people? If that is one of your strengths, then I think that the Connector program would be a good fit.
Okay, maybe last question, and then we've got a couple of people we want to bring into the discussion who have actually been part of this, and I think that would be a useful way to kind of use the last few minutes of our time together. So we talked about the role of the mentor, the connector, and there's been some part of that is around the eligibility, but I want to make sure, I mean, that there has to be a good fit on both sides. Both, you've done some of the work with the newcomer that's coming and looking for that help, and you know, to be fair, saying, look, language skills and being ready for the job makes some sense in both circumstances. But as we look at the eligibility criteria, and I think, you know, you've covered off that part is done by the programs with the individuals. But if you're the business owner or the community person that wants to get involved, what would those eligibility things look like? I mean, you know, what is it that you're looking for to make sure? And you've touched on this, but let's kind of get a bit more. So if I'm watching this, I'm saying, yeah, I'd like to do that. What are the again, those 3 or 4 things that you should ask yourself? Maybe that's the way you put it, Dave. So maybe Marcia, we'll start with you. I mean, what should a potential mentor be asking themselves in terms of not eligible, but are they the right fit?
I think the main thing is, I would say for a mentor is to wanting to help a newcomer. Maybe they're a newcomer themselves, and maybe they've been through the situation where they are new to Canada, looking for work. They didn't have anyone to connect with. So just that willingness and wanting to help others and to and they, like, I know this is what Dave had said, but, you know, maybe they have a network. Maybe they've been in their field for 3 years or more. So they've been able to meet other professionals in the field. And it's just about sharing their knowledge, I think, is the main thing. Wanting to help and wanting to share their knowledge.
Dave?
I would say both of those things are crucial for a successful connector as well, and to get the most out of the program. I mean, it's, of course, there's the satisfaction of helping someone, but I think it's not entirely selfless either, because for people who are looking to build their business and increase their network, and to explore talent that is out there, even if they're not hiring right now, there are benefits in meeting people through this program, because it can help to increase your network as well. And I come back to that point I made earlier, that if you ask yourself, do I like to meet with people and to connect people to one another? Is that something that that works well for me, and that is fulfilling for me and is beneficial for me as well as the people that I'm connecting? Then I think this program could be a good fit for you.
Yeah, and as I say, the example I used, we're guilty as charged. I was happy to do it because I was asked to do it, and like to do those, both mentorship and connecting. but it had the added benefit of having a tremendous asset to our team, being that I knew of only because of this. I wouldn't have, she may not known of us at the chamber, and we certainly wouldn't have known of her. So important words there. Listen, these are both are really important programs and great programs being offered. They can certainly be beneficial to businesses right across the region. So listening in today are a couple of individuals that have experienced and worked with firsthand the benefits of these programs. I'd like to bring them just into the conversation for the last few minutes we have. As I know many businesses of varying sizes today are probably curious about the benefits to getting involved firsthand from folks involved in the program. So I'd like to invite Olashan Ole Inca, who is who's with Digital Learning Specialist with Grand River Hospital, and Nandina Agarwal, a financial advisor with TD Bank, and Carolina Balsazar with Stance Healthcare to join us now. So I think they're going to pop up on the screen here. 1, 2, 3. Have we got everyone joining us? But I wanted to maybe work with. I think everyone's on there. Nandina, Carolina, good. We got it. So Nandina, you served as a connector earlier this year. Maybe just share your experience with the program. Because I think that's helpful as you hear someone who's actually been part of it, because they may not believe Marcia or Dave, and certainly they're not going to believe me, but they might believe you. So give us your take on the experience with the program.
Yes, thanks, Ian. So thank you for the introduction, but I'm an immigrant, so I definitely know how's the journey. So I have been in Canada for over 6 years now. So that made me curious about the program itself. So as you mentioned, I'm a financial advisor at TD, and I do have some connections at the bank. So I wanted to leverage those connections and maybe help people out. So with my partner or connectee, she had a banking background as well from her country. So I just had an initial meeting with her just to know what's her experience like and what is she looking for, what are her expectations. And I had her with the resume building, and then she landed a job at TD. So I'm glad that I was able to help her out, and many more people who still need my help. It's a great program.
Did you stay in touch? I mean, are you keeping that relationship going? I mean, they've got their job, but are you still maintaining that relationship?
Yes, so we wanted to actually meet in person, but now I think we would be able to, that things are opening up and going back to normal, hopefully. So I just shared her my mobile number because I was more comfortable that way, because sometimes I don't check my email, sometimes I'm busy. So we made a personal connection. So if she had any doubts or if she was concerned, and she did not want to bug people at the bank or her manager. So she used to just contact me, and we built that personal relationship.
That's great. Carolina, I understand that you were a connectee. So maybe describe your experience and how's it helped you in your search and getting settled, and that aspect of it. You tell us about being a connectee.
Okay, thanks, Ian. Okay, I have been here in Canada for a bit more than a year with a lockdown in the middle, and I got a job. No, I got like 3 or 4 job options, and this thanks to the Connectors Program Action Plan. But why work it out? Because, if you go Google like interview questions, you're going to get like, now I checked this morning, 915 million answers. So which one is the correct? None of them. You need to develop the passion to answer questions, because you can have a fantastic resume or a customized cover letter, but if you panic when you receive a phone call for screening, or you are in a virtual interview or an in-person interview and you panic, then you are going to lose that option. And the Connectors program gave us, as connectees, the possibility to have this information interviews, and it's like it's not a mock interview because you know that it's a real one, but you don't have the pressure that you need to be like have correct answers. So that's practice, and you know, practice makes masters. So that's my experience.
That's great. Well, and it's wonderful to hear how the program actually comes off the page as opposed to the theoretical of what we talked about earlier. Although that's still important, Dave and Marcia. I'm not minimizing it, but it's nice to hear this. Olushan, you were a mentee in the mentorship program. So what was your experience? I mean, and what motivated you to become a mentor? So I think you've done both sides of the program now. So maybe speak from the user experience side of it, but also what's the benefit to business or in your career doing the other side of it, which is to mentor others now.
Okay, so I'm going to answer each with 3 answers. First one is, as a mentee, I met the most down-to-earth and humble people in this region. It's why we stayed. By the way, we've only been here for 3 years, and they were willing to share their experience as locals while I shared mine as an immigrant. So I saw the differences in the 2 cultures and learned new things, imbibed those new things. For example, the way I speak now is the influence of one of my mentors who said to me, I hear you when you are slower. So that feedback was helpful with my interviews, for example. And then they had information sessions with me where we reviewed my resume and had mock interviews. Those built my confidence for the community I was in. And then they introduced me to so many people. Like, my network in 1 year was huge. For someone who came brand new, didn't know anybody, I had a huge network of locals that the mentors were willing to introduce me to. And those people also gave me information sessions. Those people also gave me feedbacks. Those people also checked my resume and made me add things that were missing, take out things that were unnecessary in the context that we are in. Because back home, apparently, I was doing so much more in terms of work style. Now they made it specific and unique. And I would say the final thing that was, they recommended me for interviews. That was big, like actually submitting my resume, and I saw how that impacted me. The last benefit, which for me is the biggest till now, is that one of my mentors is still a mentor till today. So beyond the why, she stayed connected. I'm now learning to garden from her, like the Canadian kind of garden, because it's very different. And so she went down on her knees, and together we're gardening my backyard here. Like, it's amazing the kind of people that the Y made me get connected to. The second question is, why did I become a mentor? Okay, 3 answers for that. One is gratitude. I was extremely grateful for what the Y did for me. That connection, that networking, that like care and concern that I saw from the mentors, and I thought I would give back. So it was gratitude, number 1. The second one was empathy. My first few months, were scary. There was fear, uncertainty, not knowing where to go, who to meet. So I know that there are people who are feeling like that right now, like they're literally leaving the airport feeling that way. So I wanted to be there for those people, because in my case, I probably understand better and I can help better. And the final one was example. And the example is, if I can do it, you can do it. Because I landed my first job within the first 6 weeks of landing in the country, but that was a lower skilled job. But I went back to my internationally trained path within my first 9 months. The why made it happen. I wouldn't even did not deceive myself. So the point I keep making to those I talk to now is, you can do it. Don't listen to those who say we can't. We can. But here is a path that will speed it up, so that in 9 months you're back to what you're passionate about. Benefits to business. 3 again. 1, knowledge. I believe, based on what my latest mentor, like the one who has stayed with me, has been telling me, the more she relates with me, the more she learns about other cultures. So you learn to know what other people bring to the table. 2, we are maybe 2 and 3 are together. We are fast learners and we go the extra mile. The reason is many of us left our home countries because we want a better life for ourselves and our kids. And so we are desperate to succeed. Your business wants to succeed. You want to make money. We want to help you make money because we have a stake. So there is an ownership mentality when you hire us to your companies. We help you succeed. There's a passion, there's a drive that someone who is here might not have, like we have it. And the final question is, how has it helped my career? Like I said, I hit my passion back within 9 months, number 1. Number 2, I have a friend because of the why. Like, we become family friends. I've been to her house, she's been to my house multiple times, and so on and so forth. And lately, she gave me a tree at the back of my house. And it helped me know what certifications to do to help me stay in the industry. And I think finally, she was able to tell me to volunteer, like encourage me, why not volunteer in the institute where you are certified? And I did, and right now I'm on the board of that institute because of that recommendation. Like, that's a lot. So for me, if anybody has time, volunteering with the why to either be a mentor or a connector is it. And I'm approved because you're going to be raising another Oluseun in 6 to 9 months. And she's going to be sharing this kind of testimonies I just shared.
You know, that's great. All 3 of you, thank you for taking the time today, because it's really important to hear this. And Oluseun, you say, I have mentors. One of is my dad, and I only do this small piece is the constructive criticism when he would come to our events when we did them in person and say, you know, you started talking too fast and I couldn't understand you, right? Then he's saying that to me, and I've done this for a lot of years. It's you know, that sort of mentorship of saying, when you're up on stage, remember to talk slower. And some of our closest family friends from my days, my mom and dad lived in Nigeria for 5 years, and their best friends, and NU Akpan was very intelligent business guy, but when he got excited, no one could understand what he was saying, because he was. And so like just saying, hey, you know, you got to slow down a little bit. And I think that's good for everybody, whether it's me or for you or for anybody, is those little tips make a big difference, because people want to hear what you have to say, as an example. And I think this is where both the connector and the mentorship programs are so incredible, because some of this isn't rocket science. It's giving you, you know, those little tips that can be helpful along the way. So listen, I think we're just about, yes we are, we're almost going to go to over time, and then I'll be in trouble with my staff. So we're gonna leave it there. But I want to thank Oluseun and Nandina and Agarwal and Carolina for joining us today to give us your experience practically with the event. So. And just as I wrap it up, I want to thank both Dave and Marcia for taking the time and pulling this together with us. As we end today's session, I just want to take another opportunity to thank our sponsor for the series, our title sponsor, Manulife. Our platinum sponsor for the series is indeed the Immigration Partnership of Waterloo Region. This month's presenting sponsor, Grant Thornton LLP. And finally, to all of you that join us today or that are going to watch this later on our website. As a reminder, we do host a new business success series every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Join us next week as we are joined by the Business Economic Support Team of Waterloo Region. Best Waterloo was formed in the early days of the pandemic and has continued to meet weekly to address issues of our community and business community as a result of COVID-19. So I'm pleased to be joined by my colleagues, the president of the Waterloo Economic Development Corporation, the Cambridge Chamber, Communitech, and Explore Waterloo, which is the Hospitality and Tourism Corporation of Waterloo Region. Join us to hear what the group is working on and how we've been trying to support the community and the broader community through COVID. For more details, you can register at greaterkwchamber.com. Please do share this series with your friends and colleagues, and join us every Wednesday afternoon for another edition of the Business Success Series. Because if it's Wednesday, it's the Business Success Series. And I'll leave you with this. Please stay positive, test negative, get vaccinated, because we're stronger together. Everyone have a great afternoon. Thanks so much, ladies. That was great.
Thank you.